Yeah. Well, let me know, because otherwise, like right now, the sound is going into my hearing aids. But if that makes an echo, I'll switch it out of my hearing aids and just let it go regular. So let me know what you prefer.
It might just be Charlie peeping that makes the echo sound. No, I hear an echo.
Okay, I'm gonna switch it out of my hearing aids and see if that'll help. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Hold on. Switching out of his hearing aid so there's no echo.
Is that better? Is that any better? I switched out of it.
Much better.
Oh,
Thank
okay,
you.
good.
Yes,
Okay,
thanks
thank
for
you.
coming.
Thank
So
you.
today's
Thank you.
this is a special episode. It's not an interview. It's not where my guests come on to do comedy like has happened before. Today is just where you get to see me chatting with my friends in New York. So I have a lot of really close friends in New York City, and I recommend them all for comedy of any kind. And my very first guest that I have on here, I'm trying this out. It's going to be called Coffee with My New York Friends, episode 1. So my first episode, I get one of my best friends, Zygy Susser.
Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks, Linda.
You can see on the post, you can see his credits. They're a mile long. He's done a lot of things. And today, it isn't about us talking about his career per se. It's you getting a glimpse of us just talking and being friends. So it's Coffee with Friends, episode 1. So thank you for coming on here, Zygy. How are you doing today?
I'm okay. I'm okay. Thanks for asking me. Thanks.
Absolutely. So
But
you
by the way,
usually
I
have
just want to let you know, Charlie, my bird, for those who know, is on top of the iPad here. So if you hear little noises or chirping, it's not me, it's Charlie. What if you think you heard him? If you think you hear the phrase "Who's a banana," you really did hear it, because that's what he says.
I love birds. I had a mynah bird.
Cool. Did he talk?
Yeah.
Wow. Do you remember what he said?
He said dirty words, and he would say them when my parents were gone. He was smart.
That's funny. That's funny.
One time I couldn't get him to say any dirty words, and so I got the dog. We had a big lab, and I got the lab. I said, Prince, jump, because whenever you startle the bird, he would say cuss words too. And so I stomped my leg. Come on, Prince, jump. And then I couldn't straighten out my leg. And it turned out I had an extra bone growing, I had extra tibia. And I had to go get a bone taken out. And that's my story about a bird.
Wow. Wow. So he's a bird doctor. Wow. Cool. What was the mynah bird's name? What was his name?
Flapjack.
That's funny. That's funny.
And then Prince was the dog.
You talked about stomping and whatnot. I don't know if I have a story about my wife, Linda, really accidentally stepping on Charlie. Like he was walking on the ground. She was on the couch. Normally, a bird's flying and stuff like that. He was walking on the ground. She had no idea he was there, and she accidentally stepped on him. And she flattened him out like a pancake. It was horrible. He was alive. He was okay, but he couldn't fly. He was like flat. It was hard. We didn't know what to do. So, we waited a few minutes seeing if he'd come into himself, but he didn't. So we took him to the animal medical center. And they kept him overnight and everything. And they said they were going to check him for brain damage. How do you check a bird for brain damage? What do you ask him? Who's the president? But broken bones and brain damage. But after a while, he was okay. He just got back into himself and stuff like that. And we brought him home, and it took a while. He could fly again. And of course, like a month later, I sat on him again, like a pancake. But I wasn't going to bring him back to the hospital. Whatever. It was traumatic for him. It was terrible. And little by little, again, he came back into himself, and he's perfectly okay. But it's so scary. Like when I sat on him, like I sat on the bed. I looked at him where he was. I turned and I sat on the bed, and in that split second, he flew from where he was and flew right under where my ass would be. And I sat on him. And because it was a bed, it gave, so it didn't really harm him that much. So now it's so funny. When I sit on my bed, I take my hands and I like shoo under my ass in case he's there. It looks like I'm shooing away the smell of a fart. So this way, I make sure I don't sit on him in case he flies under my ass or something like that. It's crazy, but that's a true story. So you got to be careful.
Everything you say on stage is true.
Yeah, a lot. I try. At least there's a kernel. It starts with the true thing, and then I, go crazy, elaborate, go nuts. Take it to crazy places. But that story I told you was a whole bit. Whatever. It's a 5-minute bit, and I talk about leaving my wife as a deposit in the hospital because it's so expensive, and other stuff. Charlie signing a health proxy for me to be able to talk about his condition, whatever. I got all these things. Get him a phone and TV for this room. Have all these things. But yeah, I mean I like telling stories. And you got to do it from reality, from the real thing, and that makes it easier to talk about, and to remember, kind of. And you don't have to remember every single joke, but as long as you get the story, it's kind of okay and stuff.
Yes. Have you ever gotten done telling something and somebody says, "Is that true?"
I don't remember that ever happening. I don't remember that happening. But I probably will at some point. Now I'm doing a story. But it's just based on a little truth, thing that it's hard for me to make a decision, And another true part is that menus in restaurants have a lot of pages, and how do you decide, and stuff like that. And then I go through a whole thing about that. So all the things that happen after that aren't true, but that kernel is true, and I take that and then try to make something funny out of it and stuff.
Yes.
So it's good.
Of all the jokes you've told, what's your favorite joke? I'm asking questions, but I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I maybe this is a favorite. Like I mentioned that I worked, well, that I worked 35 years at Social Security, it's a federal job or whatnot. And I say that on the job, I interviewed a woman who worked at a Whole Foods. Again, it's a true story. She worked at a Whole Foods. And I said, I go to the one in my neighborhood. It's on Houston Street. And I said, I love their bread pudding. And she said, oh my God, I made their bread pudding. It was amazing. And they stopped selling it. So I said, why'd they stop selling it? And she said, not enough people buying it. And in the joke, I say, and again, it's true, that's the most exciting thing that happened to me in 35 years at work.
Of all your jokes, that's my favorite joke too.
Really? That's so
I was
cool.
going to say it, and I thought, I'm just going to ask Zygy what's his favorite.
Right. I know Helene likes it a lot also. It's a good joke. It takes a few seconds, and sometimes I rush through it too much because I'm afraid it takes too long. But I like it. But it's got to follow the thing about being in the job 35 years. Otherwise, you don't know what's the big deal about it.
Yeah.
So, but another funny thing. Again, true story. Another joke I have again is I say. When I retired, I cried, and I did. But I say the reason is I'd always hoped to stay long enough to see my assistant manager drop dead. and it's true that I cried when I handed in my retirement papers, and I cried because I think, after 35 years, it's hard to leave. All these people are my friends, and I spend more time there than I did at home and everything. And I didn't know what was going to happen with me, what it was going to be like. It was scary. So, and I wasn't ready to retire. So I did cry. But I say, I cried because I was hoping to see my assistant manager drop dead. She was terrible. She was horrible. So I did that joke at a show. And after I perform, I'm on the staircase, whatever, listening to the other comics and stuff. And somebody gets up to go to the bathroom. And she says to me, is that a true story, about, the assistant manager? And I said, yeah. I said, why? She said, because I work for Social Security. And she said, who was it? And I figure, what's the big deal? I'll say the name. I don't say the name in the joke or whatnot, but I figure she'll never know the person. So I tell the name of the person. She says, "Oh yeah, everybody hates her." and they're totally different authors, but that woman has such a horrible reputation that even this woman heard how terrible she was, and it was funny that she knew her, and it just made sense, that joke and everything. But you never know. You never know.
Never know.
Have
Wow.
you had any military people ever say they were with you at the same time as you in the military and they remember you? Did that ever happen to you or anything?
Not on stage, but I've been doing military stuff, and out of that, this guy that was my roommate when I first was dating, who became my husband, we had two roommates. We had one, and then he went back home to the States, and then we had another one. And my second roommate with my future ex-husband at the time, he contacted me on Facebook just the other day. So I guess he must see the military stuff. And so that was kind of cool, but not when I'm on stage yet.
Right.
Not yet. But I hope someday somebody that has been in the military with me actually accidentally or on purpose comes to a show. That will be really breathtaking.
Yeah. That would be amazing.
Yeah. So we talk a lot on the phone as friends, you and me, and sometimes you, me, Helene Witt, and Bruce Lipsky, and sometimes George Sauls. There's a whole clan of us that stay in contact.
And Tom Padovano too.
And Tom Padovano, thank you so much. Yes. So I want to have you guys on so that my people see who my friends really are. And it isn't contrived. This is just us talking. Like, we already know so much about each other.
Right. So you'll get other people to hate us. So to know to stay away from us. Don't click on those people. Don't friend those people. Be careful. Watch out for them. No, I'm like.
We sit and talk, and a long time ago, you and I got on the phone and helped each other with our comedy a lot.
Yeah.
And I
it
gotta
was
say,
good.
of all the people that have helped me with my comedy that weren't comedy trainers per se, you were the best.
Thanks. Well, you helped me too. I mean, it was mutual. I mean, I love your sense of humor. You've got a great mind, and you helped me too. And it's a great feeling to help somebody else and them help you. It's just nice. It's nice. It's perfect. I mean, besides being friends, we can also help each other in that the comedy area. So it's great. It's great. And I respect your comedy, and I guess you respect mine, and you don't have to accept everything I say. I don't have to accept everything you say, but it's valid, and it's a point of view, and we want to hear it, because like we're in our own bubble, and it's good to get feedback. It's important to get honest feedback. It's easy for someone to blow smoke up your ass and say everything you do is great, and you don't really learn from that. But for someone to be honest and say, well, I don't think that's so good. Maybe this is better, whatever. And again, you could take it or leave it, but the honesty is good. On the other hand, you don't want somebody who, is jealous and gives you bad advice because they don't want you to succeed, and they say that's terrible, and whatever it makes you doubt yourself. You need to find, you need really an honest person who is looking out for you instead of in their own head and not really for themselves or something. And I think you're like that. You're an honest person with a good sense of humor, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Last night I was out at on Tuesdays, I like to hit up 3 or 4 places in a night. And so Tuesday's basically my one night out because I'm saving money. But I went out to Wise Guys, the first place on Tuesday, and a comedian came up to me and said, I don't know, I want your opinion on this, Ziggy. He said to me, I don't think I hurt my comedy career just now. What do you think? And I said, what happened? And he said, the club asked me if I want to do a guest spot this coming weekend. And I told them that I'm already busy, I'm booked. at these little clubs, little shows in Vegas. But he didn't say that. He just said, I'm booked. And he asked me, and I wonder what you would say to him if he would have asked you. If you get asked by a big venue, but you've committed to a tiny venue, what would have been your response to my friend?
What comes to mind first is to say that he did the right thing, that he's showing the club that he has integrity. He's not backing out on a commitment. I think that's a good thing, but he should say to them, but thanks for asking me. Please keep me in mind for another time. I'd love to do it. I just can't now, something like that to make them know that he really is interested. But in my mind, it sounds like he did. I would have told him he did the right thing.
That's what I told him. I said, absolutely, you did the right thing.
You want to hear something terrible I did?
Sure.
I love putting myself down.
Me too.
I did a show with a guy, and he bombed. He bombed, right. He was on right before me, so I heard his set and stuff like that, and I want to make people feel good, but it's like stupid. I went up to him and I said, "Good set." What the hell was that? That was so stupid of me, like he knows he didn't do well. Like I think, I think I'm making him feel good by saying that wasn't right. It's better to be honest. It's better. I wish I would have said, don't worry, this is how we learn, you'll be better next time. Something positive, like that, but not lying just to make him feel good. So hopefully I learned a lesson from that, not to do that, because I was mad at myself. Who am I? He knows I'm not telling the truth, and why do I think I have to make him feel good? A person wants honesty, so hopefully I won't do that again.
Yeah, I think we can all say, I know I can say, we get in the habit of, like, if you get off stage and I go, good set, it's a knee-jerk response for you to say you had a good set too. And then you go, wait a minute, you really didn't,
Yeah.
I've been guilty of that.
Yeah, I mean, we all, and not all, but a lot of us have fragile egos. And if somebody says that wasn't good, it could be devastating too. If somebody says, you're not going to say you bombed, but whatever. It's a tightrope. It's hard to know what to say and stuff. You don't want to tell somebody they did badly. I don't. It's tricky. It's tricky. Hopefully, you want people to be honest with you, and you could be honest with them. But you also have to know who you're talking to. Not everybody can handle the truth. Not everybody wants to know the truth. Some people want to be lied to, and they'd rather you lie to them. So I guess you have to know who you're talking to and stuff.
Yeah. Sometimes if I think they're open to input, I'll say, I have some notes on what you said, and I wouldn't have any notes if you didn't pull me into what you're talking about. And with a few tweaks, I think it can be even better. So let me know if you want to hear it. And usually that will get them to want to hear it if they're so inclined.
You have a very nice way of talking. You have a very polite way to say things. You could say the worst thing in such a nice way that people don't mind hearing it. So, I mean, you make it like you make the negative sound positive. I have notes for you. Like, meaning you didn't do that well. That you could improve it, but you do it in such a nice way that somebody's happy to hear that. So I think that's a gift. You really know how to talk, speak well to people and stuff, make them feel good. So
if I want to insult somebody, they don't realize it for days.
Right. You'll figure it out on the way home. It'll come to you.
Wait a minute, that wasn't nice. Yeah.
But it's hard. It's a somebody could throw you totally off. If somebody says something to you right before a set, that could throw you off. After could put you in a tailspin, whatever. Because I don't know, I don't have a great ego, so it's easy for me to think the worst of myself or whatever. It's easy to it's easier for me to accept negativity than positivity. Like the negativity, like, oh yeah, you're right, I believe it, fine. And if somebody, says I did well, I don't feel as comfortable. It's like I'm more comfortable with negative instead of positive. It's a shame, but that's how I am. Maybe a lot of people like that, I don't know, but that's how I am.
That's how I am too. Like last night, I don't know, I was just being myself, and it felt like the entire place adored me, and it's uncomfortable. You got to get used, as you get better with your comedy, you get a totally different reaction that you're not used to. You're used to the rejection and people not giving you eye contact when you get off stage, and not saying you had a good, oh, you look so nice,
Right.
and then like to have people say, oh my gosh, she was so funny. I'm like, oh yeah, I was
Right.
the only woman on the show.
And
Must have been
you
me.
don't believe it. You don't believe it. That must be talking about somebody else or whatnot, But
Yeah,
it's like I guess I don't know if it's part of it. Fear of success and fear of failure at the same time. I think we have both of them and stuff,
yeah,
Um, and we think we're good and we think we're terrible. It's like we have both things working at the same time and stuff like that.
yeah, like good cop, bad cop,
Yeah,
like which
yeah.
one are, I don't know. I think it's interesting how people perceive us, in a crowd. And if the crowd starts going with you, then people just assume you were great, and they might not have heard anything you said. They might have been way in the back where everyone's talking, and they go, man, because this whole table last night, way in the back, there was about 10 people. They all wanted to hug me. They were way in the back where there was, uh, there's a back door where everybody's going in. I don't know that they heard anything, but maybe they just thought I was funny.
That's why they say it's important how a comedy club is set up. Like if they pack people together near the front instead of having people all spread out, when a few people start laughing, it's contagious, and then other people laugh, and it gives them permission to laugh, because otherwise they don't know, should I laugh, shouldn't I laugh. So how they set up or how people are sitting is an important thing in comedy.
Yeah. There was last night, it's a big, long dive type bar, but I don't mean dive in a negative way. It's a bar where people go, and a few months ago, nobody wanted to pay attention to the comedians. And now when you come in, they've reserved the tables and they escort you up to the front and they fill it to the back. The place was packed, and there
Right.
must have been full capacity, but people by a door where people are coming in and out are going to tend to have noise. So yeah, but it would be
Yeah.
nice if they locked that door and made people go out a different door, but probably fire hazard, they got to keep it open.
Yeah, I did my first senior center like 2 weeks ago, whatnot, and it was really good. I really had a good time. It was nice. I don't want to say I
That's
killed, but
that really,
no, I
is
did.
that
No,
the first time you've done a C?
but yeah, it was the first time I did a senior center, and it was good. The people really enjoyed it, and it made me feel great. It was good. It was good.
That's awesome. Senior centers pay good money for one comedian to come in and do an hour. It's a great way to
Wow.
stretch your legs and do
Yeah.
crowd work and prop comedy and sing and dance. And
Yeah, I got paid, which is a bonus, on top of making people laugh and stuff. Getting paid is fantastic, is unbelievable. So it was good. It was good.
did you do it in a group, Ziggy?
Well, do you know Terry? You probably know everybody. You know Terry Ann Zander.
Yeah.
She asked me to do it, and I did it with her, Janet Regensburg, and Bruce Lipsky. So it was the four of us. And Terry Ann is the one who found the place, and it was nice. It was in New Jersey, and it was good. It was good. It was good. My wife had to go with me to make sure I didn't get lost.
Leave breadcrumbs. So what do you think of, like, how have the responses been to having a bird during your set?
I think it's great because there is one other person who I know has a bird, Stephen Douglas. You know him.
I
He
know the
has a
name.
yeah, he has a bird too. I don't know if he's ever performed with him on the screen, but I mean, when I'm home, when my wife's home, the bird's always out of the cage, so he can go wherever he wants to go. And since I'm retired, I'm home a lot, so I've become very close to the bird, and he's on my shoulder a lot. And people like him. I mean, a lot of people have dogs, cats, but very few people have birds. And people are fascinated by it. And he's a good bird. He's cute, and so I think it's added to my comedy and everything. And I have sets about him. When I auditioned for America's Got Talent, like somebody suggested that I have the bird on my shoulder because they like unique things and everything. And I had a really hard time getting on, technically with the computer, finally getting in. And he was on my shoulder the whole time. I was fumbling with it, and he was great. And I finally get in, and the producer finally sees me. Charlie's on my shoulder for like 2 seconds, and then he flies off. It would have been so great if he would have been there. Somebody said I should have nailed his feet to my shoulder or something, so he couldn't get away. But anyway, so I was hoping he would be there. But even if he was there for the AGT thing, if I would be lucky enough to get on, I mean, he wouldn't be there on the real show. I would never take him to a live show or anything, like whatever. So even though he's on Zoom shows, I wouldn't bring him to a live show, because they might end up hiring him over me, and then I lose a gig or something. But
Send him to Hollywood.
right. He'll be a star on Animal Planet. But he, it's good. People like him. People say to me sometimes, "Where's Charlie?" Because like I'll do the same shows, every now and then, so people know him, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
I like it when he turns his back to us.
I know. I don't know what that's about, but he'll be on my shoulder, and you'll only see his tail and stuff. When people want me to have a special screen with their logos on it, and stuff, the green screen thing, he doesn't show up as well, like for some reason, maybe because he's green, like his body doesn't show. But it's like now when I don't have any filter, whatever, when I don't make it blurry, if he would want to, maybe he's really comfortable. He has one leg up, and he's standing on one leg. That's his comfortable thing. And he likes hearing people talk. So like his head is cocked a little so he can hear us talking and everything. He likes the sound of people talking. But anyway.
It'd be funny if he started reciting jokes.
Oh my God. Well, he says a few things. I mentioned, he says, "Who's a banana?" He says "pretty boy." He says, he just said, "Who's a banana?" Charlie, you want to say hello to the audience? I know you're very comfortable. Come here. He'll say, here he is.
Hi,
He'll say, make it do," which is like, I'm really toilet training him. It's true. Again, it's part of a joke, but I really am toilet training him. And when he goes to the bathroom, I say, well, I can tell when he's about to poop because he starts backing up a little. So when I would see him do that, I would put him on a little waste basket, and I'd say, "Make it do." And when he would do it, I'd like congratulate him and stuff like that. And now when he's gonna poop, he starts saying "make it do." He tells me that he wants to go to the bathroom. And if he's on my shoulder, wherever he is, I'll put him on that wastebasket, or whatever it is, and he'll usually poop, and it's really cute. It happens rarely, but once in a blue moon, he'll fly to that wastebasket himself and poop. That's the best. That he really, is being toilet trained and stuff like that. But anyway, I hope one day I don't have to look into Depends for Birds. It does not. But anyway, but he's a little toilet trained, which is great. He says, "Come on."
Does he watch TV with you? Does he look at the screen?
Not particularly. I mean, he'll be on my shoulder, whatever. he does whatever he wants, you know. I try to put him in the window so he can look out the window, you know. Um, uh, we went away like a few weeks ago. We visited the kids in North Carolina and stuff, and you know, we left him home. And there's a woman on our floor who also has a bird, and she said that she would, you know, watch him and everything. She'd take care of him. She changes food, changes paper, his water, and stuff like that. And she calls us the first night. We're in North Carolina, and she says Charlie escaped from the cage. He he you know, she went and came to our house and the apartment, and he was out of the cage. She caught him, but she didn't want to crush him. She didn't want to hold him too hard, and he got away from her. She was going to put him back in the cage, and he ran under a broom closet, and she couldn't get her hand in all the way to get him out. And like she turned the flashlight on her phone so she could see him or whatnot, and she didn't know what to do. He wouldn't come out. So we tried where I I would talk. She would put her phone by the opening, and I would say, "Good boy, Charlie. Come on, Charlie. Come out, come out." And she said she could see him walking back and forth under there, but it wouldn't make him come out because he's afraid of her. He hates her because he associates her with us being away, and he doesn't like her, for that reason. So my wife, my wife had the idea that she should go away from that opening and hide a little, and maybe it'll make him come out. So my wife said that she should leave that area, open and close the door, so he'd think that she left and hide someplace. And she did that, and sure enough, he came out. She went around where he was, put stuff where that opening was under the broom closet so he couldn't run back in. Then she came out and he ran under like a coat hanger, whatever. But she was able to get him because that was okay. And she, got him and put him in the cage, and then put these twist ties, so he couldn't, get out of anything, whatever. She did it by all the food cups and everything. And I know what I did wrong. Like before she came, I had cleaned the cage because, I wanted to look good, but I didn't put all the sticks back exactly the right way. So one stick I put there was an opening which I hadn't noticed. He was able to, I guess, get his head under and push it up and escape and everything. But my wife was ready to go back to North Carolina, go back from North Carolina, go home. Like she was hysterical that the woman would never be able to, get him back in. And here we were going to see our kids, spend like 4 days, and she's already flying back to New York, because, she couldn't imagine anything bad, she didn't want anything bad happening to him. Luckily it worked out. But it was scary for a little while. She was going to go. She was really going to go back to New York. Whatever it was going to cost, she was going to go back. But luckily it worked out.
Oh my gosh. I know we've talked about it when I interviewed you before, but it's such a huge, big deal to be a finalist in the funniest Jewish comedian contest in New York City. So did you want to just talk about that experience? Because I don't remember very much about it. I think it was like 2 years ago.
Maybe more like four or five, because the pandemic, we lose track of time and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it was a contest. They do it, they were doing it every year. And this guy Jeff Cole does it with I think a Jewish newspaper, maybe the Jewish Week, I forget which one. I think that one. And it, it's funniest Jewish comic. I mean, it's not really the funniest Jewish comic. I mean, whatever. But there are a lot of Jewish, comics who are a hell of a lot funnier than me, who are professionals. But it's not really open to professionals so much. It's open to non-professionals. And it was fun. It was fun doing it. Of course, you hope you're going to win and stuff like that. You don't win, but to be a finalist was exciting, and it was good. And whatever. I was hoping I would do better and stuff like that. But there was some, I shouldn't bellyache or whatever, not, but there was somebody there who was like even older than me. I think she was like in her 90s or so. I don't know what, doing comedy. And I think, I mean, in my mind, if she hadn't been there, maybe, I would have, gone, whatever, been ahead and stuff like that. But anyway, but it was fine. She deserved, to get what she got and stuff like that. But if they have it again, maybe I'll try again.
Yes,
I
that's
don't know.
fabulous. What do you want people to know about being a friend to me and being friends with all our close circle? What are some things you want people watching to know about our friendships we have in common?
Well, with the pandemic, this has been very, important. Like we were friends before the pandemic. It was nice. Like you mentioned, we were helping each other with comedy and stuff. And during the pandemic, it was so much more important, because like I'm comfortable just sitting on a couch in one corner, almost falling into the couch and, staying there and stuff like that. And it's not healthy. I don't get out much. I don't exercise that much and stuff. So it's good to have these outlets, and, Helene, Bruce, Tom, we'll tell each other about different gigs and everything. And that's nice. We look out for each other and help each other. And it's good. I mean, Helene, especially like she got me into Rob Chaffee's thing. She told me about it. She told me about Jo Firestone's thing. I mean, these are really important things that especially during the pandemic, but career-wise, I mean, it's helped me help my comedy and help in so many ways. With the good timing thing is unbelievable. Being on the Tonight Show is unbelievable. So these things, you don't know what's going to happen, and friends are important. Friends are important.
Yes.
Um,
When
and
I was in New York living there, I met you at Gladys Simon's room at the Comic Strip Live. And then I remember announcing that I'm doing military comedy. I remember you'll forever be one of my tops because you met me and we went to this Soldier and Sailors Club on the Midtown East Side. I don't know, like 40th and East Second or something. I don't know. And we tried,
I think it's in the 30s on Second Avenue or First Avenue, something like that. Yeah.
and we tried to Shanghai our way in there. I was so confident they were going to let us do comedy. They bounced us out so fast. And I was so distraught, because I'm from the West Coast. I don't think like a New Yorker. Like, I'm sure they'll let us. No, they did not.
Right. But what was good about it is it gave us more time to go to that Dunkin' Donuts and sit with each other and talk and get to know each other and see what we had in common. And it was great. It was great. And my bird just stepped on something. And you even gave me a pair of earrings for my daughter. I don't know if you remember. You gave me one of your, a set of earrings that you brought to give me, which was very cute. But we became fast friends from that. And you just made some announcement, if anybody wants to join me, this veterans thing, and I go, what the hell, I'm not doing anything, I'd like to do that. And just a little thing like that. And we became, good friends. And I appreciate you. And I mean, being on your show a few times has helped me, because, I've done some other, interviews or podcasts. So, it made me feel comfortable and everything, and whatever, I get a lot out of that and everything. And you've coaxed me to be on this show or that show. I need a kick in the ass every now and then, and you got me on a show with the great Wendy Liebman. I mean, that's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. And to see her laugh at my jokes, that's like a highlight of my life. I mean, to have somebody so great, so funny, so important in comedy, and so nice, laughing, thinking I'm funny. Oh my God! And you set that up. I mean, I really appreciate that. That's a highlight for me. I wish I could do things in return for you as much as you've done for me.
Oh, anything we can do for each other, that's what, that's the thing is like, it isn't I now understand how people bring along other people. At first, when you get in and you go, they're hiring their friends, but you get comfortable, and like I would be comfortable having you anywhere I'm at, because I know you,
Mhm.
and I know your comedy, I know who you are as a person. So there's a lot to be said to reach out and have close friends, but you don't want to have the kind of people like you mentioned that will bring you down or try to hold you back. You and I have a friendship that's honest and positive, and that's
Mhm.
rare.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. Yeah, like I know, there's a lot of jealousy in the business. Why is that person getting that gig? I'm funnier than them. Who do they know? What did they do? It's not fair. There's a lot of that stuff. It's a tough business. In a sense, it's not great being old. There's a lot of negative to being old, but on the other hand, it's not like this we have to make a living at this, and we have to really kill ourselves, whatever. We've lived our lives kind of. This is like frosting on the cake, and we could just enjoy it. We don't have to go crazy and stuff. And I mean, to really be good, you have to go crazy. You have to do a lot of shows, open mics, sets, keep writing all the time. But we don't have to make a living at it. Which I think if I would have done this, sometimes I think, gee whiz, if only I would have started this when I was younger. I'd be famous, whatever. Um, on the other hand, I don't think I would have had what it took to succeed, because you really have to work hard at it. And I don't. I think I wouldn't have succeeded. So this isn't a bad way to do it. To be retired, and I don't know if you want to call it a hobby or you want to call it a good time. I don't. I mean, I'm serious about it. I work at it and stuff, but I don't have to live or die by it.
Yes. And sometimes comedians, you know, make all kinds of judgments against each other. Like, you're not a real comedian if you're not doing this.
Yeah,
If you're not, if you are having any money come from any other source, you're not a professional. If you're not going out 10 times a day, you're not, you know what? Let everybody do it at their own pace, their own way.
right, 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 right. I mean, I once heard an interview with Ralphie May, and I love Ralphie May. I think he's one of the best comics of all time. But he did say something like that. He said something like, "If you're only doing it for a hobby, stay out of my way." And I can understand people who, want to get stage time and are dying for stage, and they don't want somebody who's just looking at this as a hobby to get stage time. But I agree with you. We have just as much of a right to be who we are, and we have our own needs, and just as valid as other people's needs. And what the hell? I mean, we do what we do. They do what they do. We don't, you know, take anything away from them, and they shouldn't take it away from us.
Yeah. And I think when it all gets down to it, do you have a voice and are you funny? And can you
Right.
make the crowd laugh? That's what it should be.
Right. The bad thing with us though is, again, because we're old, there's a lot of ageism, and we're not going to get a lot of stuff. When I look, when I get a mailing from a club and I see all the comics there, they're all young. Once in a blue moon, you'll see somebody older. So, you know, maybe we're kidding ourselves to think, we're going to get on these shows and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, like, I always used to say funny is funny. It doesn't matter. But maybe the reality is that, young people, maybe they don't want to see us. I don't know. I mean, I've done shows, regular comedy clubs, and I get laughs from everybody, young and old. But if you're famous, if you're Seinfeld, and if you're old, it doesn't matter. I mean, but if you're nobody and they see somebody old, and you got to win them over, because they probably think, what does this person have in common with me? I can make them laugh, all ages, because I don't think my humor has anything to do with age or anything like that. It's not like, all, things with, I'm getting old and I can't do this, that, or the other. It's just jokes, that I think anybody can relate to and stuff. But to get a booker, a club owner to put you on is a whole different story,
I found that when they introduce me on stage, if they say the next person comes to the stage, very funny, Linda Marcus Smith, then I have to really work to win the crowd over. But if the host says the next person does a podcast, or she's does comedy, she was in the military, she does comedy, and they set your persona up and they let people know how important it is to listen to you. That's important for us at our age. I think that if we can get a host to say something about how current and relatable we are.
Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like if I get introduced and they'll say he was on the TV show Good Timing with Jo Firestone, and they showed a segment on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, whoa, maybe I should pay attention. This guy might be worth paying attention to. So you're right, it does help a little. I mean, when they say, when you go up on stage, people are making judgments the minute they see you, as you're walking, so you gotta win them over. You gotta, make them feel positive about you,
I always try to do something really goofy before I get up on the stage, before I take the mic, and try to show that I'm so excited, I can't wait to get up on that stage, and so that they're kind of laughing or think I'm goofy before I talk.
One of the lines and I'll still probably use it. One of the lines I would open up with is, I guess you didn't know this was also going to be an AARP meeting. So the only problem with, so I get last, but the only problem is I don't know if all the young people know what AARP is. So I got to be careful.
I like getting up there and saying, I've been so busy lately, not with comedy, with aging. I've gotten older. I don't know if you can tell, I've gotten older. Is this relatable? Anybody getting older out there?
Right. Yeah, I mean, we're all getting older. At whatever age we're at, we're all getting older. It doesn't matter.
I think it's so funny, some of the silly things that comedians say, like, I've been getting older, no, I thought we were all getting younger.
Right.
Or I've got older parents. Oh, you do? Oh my gosh, tell me all about that.
Right. Yeah. It's funny when you hear somebody, who, like a 30-year-old, complaining about getting older and not being able to do this, that, or play. You go, what the hell is he complaining about? He's 30, and he's saying I'm old, and I go, oh my God, whatever,
Yeah, I've got so many pains,
Yeah.
You don't even know.
You're lucky. You're okay,
Wait till you go to one doctor's appointment and come out with 3 diagnoses.
Right.
Then get back to me.
Yeah.
What's the weirdest heckle you ever heard say to any comedian, you or anyone else?
I've been lucky in that I haven't been heckled. I was. I don't know if there's a heckle once. I have a very low voice. I don't talk loud enough and whatnot. And I was at Broadway Comedy Club with a microphone, and people were laughing, but in the front, like somebody yelled out louder. And here I have a microphone, and they're telling me to be louder. It was embarrassing, that I don't have good mic technique and my voice isn't loud. And it was embarrassing for someone to have to tell me to be louder and stuff, but it's true. It's true. Because I don't talk, I don't project. I'm talking my regular voice when I'm up there. Do you try to project, or do you talk in your regular voice when you're on stage?
Well, I've been I guess you could say I've been studying how women project versus how men, because I think audiences tend to tune out a woman that doesn't come across like she's confident but not cocky. Like, a woman has to be a certain way to be heard. So I've been studying the way men deliver voice, and I've been trying to do a little bit more the way a man would. So I've been trying to project and vary up my tone, because I've been told I have a monotone, it sounds sing-songy, and I used to hem and haw, not get right to the joke. And I was at Broadway one time. You said Broadway. It reminded me, I was doing a joke, and the joke has a long setup. I wasn't being, slow at it. I designed the joke for a reason to go slow. And this lady in the front row said, yeah, yeah. And she was doing that thing like, hurry up. Come on, you're wasting my time. And so I took it like a negative heckle. Nobody else in all of the room downstairs knew what had happened except me, because she was like in the front row. And I said, you better slow your roll. You don't know who you're messing with. And nobody knew what I was talking about.
Wow. Yeah.
So now I know, oh, give it up for this lady in the front row. She thinks I'm way too slow with this joke that I purposely designed to be slow, and then say something about slow your roll, you think I'm slow, you better slow your roll, back off. But they had no idea what I was saying.
Yeah, crowd work is you're good at it. It's a skill. I haven't done much crowd work. I think I when we've practiced, like Vanessa Hollingshead has went over that and stuff like that, and I was okay in the class. And I haven't really done it that much in the clubs and stuff like that. But it's definitely a skill. It's a good thing to have and everything.
Yes.
But also, like you were keen on that woman, and like you said, nobody else heard her. And like sometimes that person will get in our head, but the rest of the audience doesn't even know about it, but it messes us up, just that one person. And it's a shame, because you're doing fine, but that person is throwing you off or whatever. Then you react to that person, and other people don't even know what's going on and everything.
Last night at this show, the headliner was doing a joke, and it had to do with Whole Foods and Trader Joe's. And this cute little young girl got up and went up to the headliner and gave him a gift card for Trader Joe's, like a $50 gift card.
Wow.
And he hadn't gotten to the punchline. So now he forgot the punchline, and he's like,
oh my God.
So on the one, and he made a joke out of it. On the one hand, I'm really glad I got a gift card. I can get a banana with it. But, on the other hand, I was in the middle of telling a joke.
Oh my God. I almost, it's making me think a little about the Will Smith incident, that people maybe are going to feel more comfortable to bother a comic and go up there and, not slap him, but whatever, thinking it's okay to do something like that. And it really, they shouldn't throw you off, because you're going a certain direction. You want to stay there. You don't want to be thrown off, but, and I don't know if you saw this, today, somebody told that Dave Chappelle got like tackled at a comedy show last night. I mean, that's crazy. Somebody jumped on stage. I mean, that's crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
It is. We have to be really careful, and these are comedians that really are not inciting it. They're just up there, but there are some comedians, we all know them, that get up there as shock jocks, and they upset people, and their lives could definitely be in danger,
Yeah.
Like Don Rickles would probably get shot if he was on stage right now.
Yeah, he probably couldn't get away with a lot of the stuff that he would say and stuff like that. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's hard enough to be a comedian, but then to have to also worry about, somebody crazy doing something, whatever, you don't need that,
No, we need to be focused on what we're doing, not our safety, for God's sake.
Right.
Why don't you take a minute to tell everybody where to follow you and where you're going to be performing? I would like to have us end on that note, so that it ends on you.
I'll be performing in my living room, in the couch. This is my address. I don't leave the couch. No, um, I don't perform that much. A little has to do with COVID. Like I'm, still a little afraid and stuff. I mean, I am. Like I said, I went to a senior center, and I want to perform more live shows and stuff. But the only thing I have coming up really is a show July 2nd. I have a show. Um, uh, I take a comedy class with Chris Murphy right now, and I always like taking classes because I don't do a lot of open mics, so I feel like these classes, you're getting a pro, a good pro, listening to your stuff and helping you tweak it and everything. So even though I've been doing comedy for years, I feel I can definitely learn more, especially from good people. So we can have a graduation class in a few weeks. That'll be on Zoom. So things will be on Facebook. Um, my name is Ziggy Susser, and I spell Ziggy Zygy because I'm an idiot. No, because my parents were European, and they spelled Sigmund the European way. On my original birth certificate, Sigmund is spelled Zygmunt, I think, or DT or something like that. So that's where I got Ziggy, Zygy. I don't know how it happened, but later they Americanized my name, and I have a second birth certificate, and Sigmund is spelled Sigmund. So it looks weird that I have Ziggy, Zygy, and Sigmund is Sigmund. And on my Facebook page, it's stupid. I think I should just be Ziggy Susser, but I have it Sigmund Ziggy Susser because people at work knew me as Sigmund, and friends would call me Ziggy. So I have both Sigmund and Ziggy Susser. So it looks like I have three names, Sigmund Ziggy Susser, but it's not true. So I thought of dropping the Sigmund, but I've had it so long there. I don't know if I should or shouldn't, but that's why it looks like Sigmund Ziggy Susser, which is crazy. It's not like I'm David Lee Roth, or something like that, But, it's just to capture, if someone's looking for me under the name Sigmund, it's there. If someone's looking for me under the name Ziggy, it's there. So I guess I've kept it. But anyway, so, you can follow me on Facebook. But to be honest, this is terrible. I haven't been on Facebook in like around 4 or 5 days. I don't know why. I just haven't, because when you're on it, it could take up your whole day. You could spend all day there, and it's like I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it was taking too much time, and I went to the other extreme, and I haven't been on it. And I have to get on it. I have to tell people happy birthday. So a bunch of people who are waiting. Yeah, why hasn't he said happy birthday to me? Or maybe people are there who sent me friend requests, and they're saying he must hate me. He hasn't, accepted my friend. I don't want people to feel that way. Probably there's nobody, but anyway. But so I have to get back on and do stuff. But I don't go on Facebook that much. But that's where I put things up. But I'm so bad at marketing myself. Like I'll put something up the day before I'm doing it. So people don't even have time to go there or follow or something like that. But anyway, but that's me. That's me. But whatever. But I have a Twitter thing. I have an Instagram thing. I don't post anything. I have them, but they're there. They're there.
But you've been on Good Timing, Jo Firestone's show that's streaming on the Peacock channel. You've been
Yeah,
on
that's
that.
right. That was
And
great. That was
you've
great.
been on Mrs. Maisel, and you've been on the Late Show with Jimmy Fallon.
Right. Yeah. I've been lucky enough to do a few really good things, so I can have them in my credits and stuff. Um, but I have to, I have to get out and perform more. I have to perform more and stuff. But a lot of times, they're bringers, and I don't like bringers and stuff. So, I want to do shows where I don't have to bring somebody. I want to do shows where I can get paid, whatever. So I have to pick and choose, what I want to do.
Absolutely. It's so important to pick the right things so that you
Yeah,
go in the right direction.
yeah,
I'm like
yeah,
always adjusting my priorities and
yeah.
losing my calendar. I'm really good at losing my calendar. I
Right,
think I do it on purpose.
right. It keeps us young also if we lose the calendar.
Well, you've been a delight as usual, and I
You
thank you
too.
for your years of friendship to me, being honest and
Thank you.
authentic. And I'm so glad you came on to the first episode of Coffee with My New York Friends.
So did you pop my cherry or I popped yours? I don't know which cherry. We popped each other's cherry. Thank, thank, thanks for asking me. Thanks for letting me be the first.
Yes.
And I hope you have many, many, many more. And I'll come back with the gang, whatever at some point. And whenever you want me, whenever you need me, just reach out, let me know. And it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Likewise.
On the phone.
And the other people that are my friends in New York, I've had them on to do extended period of comedy. So anytime you want to come on to do 30, 45, an hour, hour and a half, just let me know. I don't pay by the minute anymore. So you can go as long as you can use notes. You're on Zoom. You can do as much comedy as you want. Tell your bird to do some.
Right. I mean, I probably have 45 minutes, maybe, probably more than 45 minutes ready. And I should take you up on it. Thanks for offering. I'll take you up on it at some point,
It's so fun to watch people not really know how much they have, and they just keep going and going, and they're like, I did an hour. Like, yeah, you did.
Right. Thank you very much for this platform. Thanks for being my friend, and
Likewise.
and just stay well. That's the main thing. Stay well.
Yes, sirree. Stay away from the doctors. Eat apples.
Right.
That's it,
Okay.
one a day.
Charlie likes apples too. That's one of his favorite foods.
Really?
Charlie, you want to say goodbye? Come here, say goodbye. Who's a banana? Who's a banana?
Aw.
Say hi, Linda.
Hi, Charlie. Thank you so much, Sigmund Zygy Susser. Bye.
Bye. Thanks,
Love
Linda.
you
Take
lots.
care. Okay.